Good evening, and you're welcome back to the Women's National League podcast here on finalwhistle.ie. My name, of course, is Breifne Early, or should I call myself Breifne? Please unmute yourself early. I think I gave Aaron the nod to do it for himself, though. Aaron Clark joins me again this week. Welcome back to the show, Aaron.
Yeah, thankfully it wasn't me this week.
It's always me. It's always me. In terms of the week, of course, we're going to be talking about the FAI Cup semi-finals at the weekend. Two cracking games, maybe a bit of a surprise in possibly both of them. I know Shels got through, but it was a really impressive performance from Bohemians. We'll talk about that later on in the show. And also we'll be chatting to Mia Dodd later in the programme about DLR's season so far and how they've been getting on. The other semi-final, of course, Athlone surprising Wexford. Is it fair to say surprising anymore? I'm not quite sure with Athlone. I think they've pretty much earned the right to be there or thereabouts. They're in the cup final. They'll face Shels in a couple of weeks' time. But we're going to kick off the show. We're going to get straight into it. And we're joined by the Treaty United manager, Don O'Riordan, who joins us now. Don, you're very, very welcome to the programme.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, so there is a little bit of a delay, so we're going to have to be a little bit patient with that if you're listening to us here on the show. But Don, I suppose first things first, what have your second impressions, I suppose, of the league been with the first impressions of Treaty United after a previous spell with Galway? What's been your look at the season? Obviously, it hasn't gone fantastic for you in terms of results, but overall, your own thoughts on the season so far?
Yeah, the start of the season, pre-season, wasn't particularly good. There was a lot of antics going on in the club, which have since been sorted out. And, I've got a very, very young squad of players who are being given opportunities that probably normally they wouldn't be given had we had a different balance in the squad. But because the girls that there was girls obviously who left and went to other teams, that really affected us. So we ended up, with a very, very young squad. I think the average age was something between 18 and 19. We had a back four recently with two 16-year-olds playing fullbacks, an 18-year-old and a 22-year-old. So the average age of the back four was 18. And when we played against the likes of Peamount and you're playing against Stephanie Roach and Anya O'Gorman, not trying to say they're old, but they're experienced players who've been around for a long time. And again, some of the girls, as I said, Amy Madden, who was playing at left back, and again would be 16 years of age. So just realistically, it's been a tough one. There's no doubt. And unfortunately, or fortunately, or probably more fortunately, I feel the league is stronger now than it was back when I was with Galway. I think there's a lot of very, very good players around, some very young players as well, which is great to see. But, overall, it's been a testing experience. But as I say, the day I stop enjoying it is the day I pack in. But, I have no ambitions to pack in at all. I want to continue building this team. The club have talked about 2 to 3 year plan, and they understand all the stuff that went on, and they just are proud of the girls, to be honest, because we went to Wexford the other week. We were 1 down after 6 minutes. I'm looking at my watch anxiously, and it's 2 minutes to half time, and it's still 1-0, and I'm thinking we'll get in here now and we'll have a good chat. And then we conceded a goal from the corner, and a minute later we conceded another one. So we're 3-0 down at half time instead of being 1-0 down, and we're away to Wexford, who are top of the league, and we're bottom. But we had a chat at halftime, and basically we said, look, can we keep a clean sheet in the second half? Can we go out there now and stop Wexford from scoring any more goals? Get a result in the sense that we're, a draw in the second half of the game, which doesn't mean anything point-wise. But from our point of view, it was a fantastic performance. We got all the subs on. We had so many young players on the pitch. It was amazing. And we stopped them from scoring again, created 1 or 2 chances ourselves. And I just said to them afterwards, I was super proud. And that is, a performance that we've got to build on. So this weekend, we're going to Sligo. Sligo have lost 8 of the last 9 games, I think. So probably in a similar situation to ourselves. But again, it's, Stevie's got a very good group of players there, bit of experience as well. So it'll be an interesting game, but we're looking forward to it. We had a great session last night. We're on again tomorrow. The game is on Sunday, so we're going to prepare well and see where it takes us.
I think I said Breifne on this show after Treaty played Shelbourne in Talca Park that I was quite impressed with them, especially I think they conceded once in the second half, and just the attitude and application from the players for me was probably one of the things that stood out. But Don, what's it like having to work with such a young group and a very inexperienced group as well, because you're having to mold these characters as well at this level?
Yeah, you've got to be very careful, obviously, when they're so young. You can't be critical very often because you can affect their performance levels, you can affect their confidence, etc. So it's got to be very constructive when you're talking to girls, so that they realize that all you're trying to do is improve them. But handling the younger players who've never been used to playing at this level, but they've had to this year. It's been so different, from say my days at Galway when we had a lot of experienced players that complemented the younger players back then. But we've got Trish Fenley in goal, who she's obviously also a coach, and she's a big influence. Aisling Hughes is my assistant, and she's played obviously for years in the League of Ireland and knows some of these girls from us, go before we come in here. So overall, it's been, as I said, it's been tough. But we really, I can believe that these girls keep coming back week after week to training and week after week to games, and they know they're going to a game and they're starting second favourites. But we do try to motivate them and build their confidence as much as possible. And again, the day that they start maybe, throwing the towel in would be the day I'd say, well, maybe I can't do any more. But when I see, as I said, the performances, like we say, even Shels away, when it was an absolutely boiling day, we were struggling with substitutes. We didn't have many with us at all. And it was incredible performance by them in the second half, especially. And everyone fought tooth and nail, and it was nice to walk away there with head high, because we had achieved something again in that second half. But I just love going to training, because last night we had a full squad, almost a full squad there, and it was a bit of mix of we had to do a little bit of physical stuff, obviously, because they had the weekend off. But everything that we did, the girls did it with quality. We worked a lot on crossing and finishing, and it went well. And then we finished with a game where we had an outside channel where you could, free up a player and they could cross it in. And it was just really, really good. And, we said to the girls, we've got to take this into the game on Sunday. We've got to play with the same attitude, with the same pace, the same tempo. And as I said, I know they'll turn up. I know they'll try their hearts out. And if they can keep the quality, they're working so hard to get the ball back and then just losing it because of the lack of concentration. So we're still looking to improve again and again. And as I said, I have seen in the last certainly month, these girls have definitely improved, and I'm hoping they're going to show it on Sunday.
You talked about the youth of the squad, and I've been very impressed by some of those players that have been coming through, and they're in Irish international squads, but they've been really stepping up to the National League level. Amy Madden in particular, you mentioned her as one that's impressed me. She's played between, I suppose, fullback and a bit in central midfield maybe earlier in the year as well. She's out injured at the moment. How much of a loss is her, despite her young years, is having that bit of quality, maybe that energy coming in? How much of a loss has that been to you?
Yeah, we've lost Heidi O'Sullivan as well, who is a big player for us, and she had a shoulder injury which has kept her out. And Amy, it was just an unfortunate challenge against Wexford, and the kid was in bits, and she comes to training. She went down to Wexford last week with her mum on the bus, which was fantastic. And they wanted to just, to thank the people of Wexford who on the day of the injury, the players were very, very good, talking to her and encouraging her, which, the mum appreciated immensely. But she is a huge loss, as is Heidi. Obviously, we lost Michaela as well to Wexford, which was she's a really fine player, and it's a shame that she's decided to go there. But you've got to respect players, what their aims and their goals are. But look, we have a lot of very good young players who are getting better and better. And we were talking the other day, myself and Ash, about what would these girls be like in 3-4 years' time, if they're showing this promise now. Because we did see girls like Ashley Meany develop in Galway into Ellie as well. Two great players back then who really came out of nowhere. And I expect similar sort of results from many of these girls that we've got in our squad now. So, as I said, if we can keep these girls and add some other girls that are out there who can bring in, it'd be fantastic if we could bring a couple of experienced heads in who would lead by example as well, because I think this is something the girls are lacking. Somebody with an old head who could tell them which way, to play, etc., etc. My captain, Jess Mendez, I think she's 20 now. She was a teenager, obviously up to them recently. She's a rock. She's been absolutely brilliant as well. Working on, the girls on the friendship, building that rapport between each other, and generally just, leading up by example on the pitch, which is great as well. So her sister Alex has been playing particularly well. She's played a lot of games recently. And again, that's another one who is going to be a star in this league in seasons to come. But as I said, there's a list of them that I could name. And I really, really believe in these girls, because they just come back for more every time. They want to learn, they want to listen and learn. And hopefully, as I said, results will reflect that, whether it's this season or next season or the season after. I look at Athlone, for instance, and I see they didn't really do particularly well last year. But someone from the FAI asked me very early in the season, who do you think, was a good team? Who are the good teams? And I said Athlone. I said they're absolutely, such a great outfit. They work so hard for each other. They keep it simple. They pass, they do move it quickly, and they've got some great players to score goals. The kind of attributes you want in your own squad. And I believe that, it's taken them a period of time to achieve what they have, and it's going to take us a similar length of time. And I really believe that these girls can do it.
You must be reading my mind, because you've just literally robbed my next question, which was going to ask about taking inspiration from the likes of Athlone and Bows. But Don, talk to us a little bit about taking the treaty job. What was it at the start of the season that picked your fancy? Because obviously, while at Galway, you didn't win trophies, but you definitely made a massive stride with Galway. What was it that attracted you to treaty?
I had a call, I had a call from Aisling Hughes, who was talking to one or two people in the club, and before Christmas, like maybe could have been November, as early as November last year. And I'm coaching regularly here in Galway as well with Marilyn Woods, our club here in Dughishka, which is the east side of the city, and fairly committed to that now. And I was previously with Mine Villa, another club not far from here. So I was fairly full out, going coaching literally every day of the week. And this opportunity came up, and I kind of said no, because the first thing I thought of was the journey from Galway to Limerick. But then I then said, look, tell you what, guys, see how it goes. They had 7 interviewees apparently. So I said, see how it goes. Hopefully someone will turn up for you, and if you don't, let me know. Sure enough, at the beginning of January, maybe the end of December, I had a call, and they said, Don, look, we're struggling. Can we talk to you? At that stage, I said, yeah, no problem. Then I kind of looked at the fixture list, and I realised why the other 7 probably didn't want the job. I think we had 3 games away in Dublin in the first 4 weeks, which was incredible, or 3 away games anyway. But anyway, I said, we had chats to different people, had chats with me online, and basically I just fancied being back in the League of Ireland, and at that stage, I didn't realize, how young and probably weak the squad was. But I agreed to it. And there was a lot of things, as I said, that went on that were not particularly nice. I won't go into right now. But in general, I just wanted to work with players who wanted to be in the club and playing for treaty. Different people were coming and saying, I'm because of what happened last year, I'm not staying, and blah, blah, blah. And it's difficult for me to stop them because they didn't really know me, because again, they were so young. But look, I decided to take it. I said, no problem. I realized when I looked at Google Maps, it wasn't perhaps as far as I thought. But saying that, I've recently moved about 8 minutes only further away, but like it's only 8 minutes. So, we came home last night to this house. This is where we moved on Monday. And it was only like literally 5 minutes difference to the normal journey. So I just, as I said, I love the buzz of playing in the, having a team playing in the League of Ireland. And, as I said at the very beginning, I'm so proud of these girls, because a team that keeps getting not hammered, but keeps getting beaten every week, you'd imagine that people would walk away. They would say, sorry, I've had enough. But, we've not had that. We've had a regular group of girls who've stuck together. And again, they have ambitions to play better next season and be better next season, and hopefully, play with more experienced players. So yeah, like no regrets, sincerely, no regrets taking the job, because it has been probably the biggest challenge of my career. But I'm not one to throw the towel in. I've had one or two managers recently saying, like, fair play to you for sticking with it. But as I said, when you see these girls train like they do and play like they do, it's unfortunate we've not had a win, and the only point we've taken was against Sligo at home. And I think we hit the bar and the post 3 times that day, which Steve Feeney must have had shamrocks in his pocket or something. But we look at their results and now we're thinking, have we got a chance on Sunday? Maybe. We've had a tight game at the beginning. We took the lead against them the last time, which is another first. So the very first time. So we'll see. But I want to try and finish the season strong. Our last game is against Cork at home, which is a local derby, as you know. We didn't turn up for the last one. We played well down in Cork, but this is a game again. We're not going to talk about that right now, because I tell my girls it's one game at a time. So we're just focused on that game. But like, if we again can, by any way means, get a point or get 2-3 points, between now and the end of the season, it would be a fantastic achievement, and that's our goal. And we start in Sligo on Sunday.
You've kind of preempted my next question as well to you, Don. But I suppose finally, you already touched on the game at the weekend, which I was going to ask you about. But I suppose looking to the bigger picture for next season and beyond, I suppose the first part of my question is, will Don O'Riordan be in the dugout in treaty next year? And secondly, if you are, how do you stop that drain of players to other clubs in the league that has been evident over last winter particularly, but also the likes of Michaela moving to Wexford in July?
Yeah, look, there's girls in Galway, obviously. There's girls in Wexford. There's girls in Cork who have left, and I think if you put them all together, you probably have a very, very good team. But this is football, and again, it's. I spoke to the chairman and the board at the beginning of the season, and we talked about, this is not a 6-month plan. This is a 2 to 3 year plan. They want somebody to come in and settle the squad as it was, and try to get some organisation into the group. And that's what you're hoping. You hope that the players out there who may be left, or even players we might target from other teams, who can see that we're trying to do everything as professionally as possible. And we can actually improve as well on that, I believe, going forward. We've got a very small staff number at the moment. We've got a great physio and Rob, a goalkeeping coach, and Johnny Ashling is my assistant, and myself. That's all we've got. We played, who was it, Shels, I think it was, a few weeks ago, and, they seem to have more staff than we had players. It was unbelievable. And I think Peamount was the same. Someone said, there was a woman trying to get onto the pitch to walk across to the dugout, you know, and Mike groundsman was saying, "Excuse me, who are you?" And she says, "I'm the kit woman." And I said, "Kit woman? Is there such a thing? Because we don't have one." But these are things that we can improve on for next season. And, you know, I would love the opportunity to take this team further. I feel there's a lot of potential, as I said. And if we can attract a lot of players who have more experience than the players we've got now, that would be absolutely fantastic. And, you know, you've got to talk to these players and sell it to them. And players, I don't want to name names, but, you know, some fantastic players in Galway who are from Limerick, who I'd obviously love to see or love to get a chance to talk to at some stage going forward, to try and bring them back and make the team very, very proud. So time will tell. We'll just have to wait and see. But it'll be, you know, if the chairman turns around and said, "Don, thanks very much, good luck, bye," fair enough. And if the chairman turns around and says, "Don, we want to go another year with you or 2 years," well then, you know, the same things apply. I've just tried to be as professional as I can be. I've worked my socks off. I travel up and down. It's huge mileage. I lost one car, you know, it died on me one night on the way down to Limerick. I think that was the only session I've missed all season. But you know, we've reinvested. We've got a better car, and it's very, very smooth. So you know, the journeys up and down are just very, very easy now because we're in a great car. But that helps me prepare, obviously, for training sessions and games. But we're certainly, you know, doing a lot of mileage. And as I said, it doesn't put me off. The journey doesn't put me off. I travel with my wife on to every training session, both here in Galway and in Limerick, and every away game and home game. She's with me by my side. So, you know, she's a huge influence and a huge help, and keeps me sane, as they say. So we'll see what happens. But like, as I said, I would certainly be willing to go again. No problem.
Breifne, just before you do let him go, Don, just want to say congratulations on receiving the 100-year celebration medal from the FAI for your contribution to football. It's a great achievement.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was thrilled. It was something that, you know, I was awarded a while back, and I was supposed to go to the game against Belgium men in the Aviva to receive it. But that was the day we were playing the last game, the game before the first Wexford away game. And there was no way I was going to make the match because, you know, the game was in the afternoon, and we'd have to draw, you know, have a racing car to get up to Dublin to have any chance. So the other week, as I said, I went to the game against Finland to see Ireland, which was a great result and great performance. And the chairman presented it to me just in the corner, quiet, you know, nothing flash about it. But it was great. I know Jerry quite well, and I was absolutely thrilled to get it. You know, somebody was saying they didn't think I looked 100, you know, to get a medal. I said, no, it wasn't a birthday. It was an actual award. But yeah, it was. Look, I've had an amazing response online for that. The number of people who replied, and thanks, lads, for that gesture as well. Because yeah, I'm very proud. I really am, because, you know, I've been in the game 50 years as a professional now, and I don't feel tired. I don't feel down. I feel as good now as I did 10, 20 years ago. So, as I said, there's a few more seasons left in me yet, I think. So, we might talk again next season, all being well.
Absolutely. Well, listen, on that note, because if you keep talking, you'll end us up in trouble again. I already foresee a certain B. Clear. He's going to be on my messages when you leave and talk about recruitment from Galway. Don, listen, thanks very much for joining us. A pleasure. The best luck for the rest of the season, and hopefully from someone from the Northwest who's been involved with Sligo before. I hope it doesn't come on Sunday, but either way, I'm sure there's another couple of points on the league table for you before the end of the season. Thanks very much.
Please go. Thanks, lads. Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Don.
Yeah, what a legend. I hadn't really researched his background before we sat down to talk to him tonight, but I knew he was involved in the League of Ireland with Sligo and Galway, and he played a bit in England. I played a bit, a couple of 100 games. That's all, like, you know, only a handful here or there. But also involved heavily in international women's football. He was on the coaching staff of both South Africa and China. Huge caliber of experience to come into the league.
It's one Breifne at the start of the year that I said when I heard his announcement, I said, great appointment, for the fact that he's someone who can go in and work with kids, work with players, and actually help develop them. Because the biggest thing that Treaty needed this year was stability off the field. because that'll help with on the field. And I think he's brought a lot of that too. And just listening to him only helps you bode well for things down the line for Treaty.
Absolutely. And I think Sunday's game could be potentially another point or maybe even 3 for them. I think it's a fairly even game against Sligo. Sligo were his favourites, but Treaty, watch this space. They could pull off a bit of a shock on Sunday. They've battled well with them in the first 2 games this season. But another game that I think is going to be really tight next week is actually the clash of Galway and DLR. And we're lucky enough to be joined by one of the people who will be featured in that. And that's midfielder for DLR, Mia Dodd, and she joins us now. Mia, you're very welcome to the programme.
Thanks very much for having me.
Listen, first of all, thanks for coming on. I know it was a bit last minute getting you on the show tonight, but thanks for coming on and keeping us company for the next 10 or 15 minutes or so. But I suppose from your own point of view, we talked at the start of the season about how DLR could have the potential to maybe challenge that top 4, top 3 spot. It hasn't quite worked out for you in that respect. What's been your thoughts from having joined the club at the start of the year?
Obviously, when I first came, what we set out to do was to get top 4, break into the top 3, top 4. Obviously, it hasn't went that way for us, but overall, I think the performances have been good. Like if you look at the Bows game, the weekend gone, the weekend before that, I thought we played very well. It's just the end product we haven't produced. So I think that's what's been letting us down the most.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, especially in the Bows game, because you look at just even the chances they had, they just couldn't finish them. But this year for you, Mia, it's been a really important year. You've sat on the fringes of the Shelbourne team for the last couple of years. Now decided to make the move across the DLR and playing regular. How important has that been?
That's one of the main reasons why I did decide to leave Shels. I was focusing on myself really, and coming to Waves this year. Obviously, the start of the season I did have COVID. It put me back a bit, and then the injuries, but I've gotten to play a lot more regularly and I feel like it's helped me a lot.
Yeah, you managed to get the score sheet 5 times this season. You must be happy with that from midfield. It's kind of nice to contribute in that way for the team.
Yeah, obviously it's good to help the team, and it's been a personal goal for me as well to try add more goals and assists, and hopefully to keep on coming. But
Breifne, I have to laugh. You said you scored 5 goals, but yeah, you didn't mention you scored some absolute screamers as well. Some of them were absolute peach of finishes. But is it just the fact that playing more is giving you the confidence to go and try these things that maybe you wouldn't have tried in previous seasons when you've been coming off the bench for Shelbourne?
I feel like when I'm starting games, I feel like I have more trust in me. Like it's coming from Graham, he has the trust in me, and I'm doing the best I can to deliver as much as possible for him. To pay back to him, it's like him having to trust me is giving me more and more confidence.
What's been the major change between the two, I suppose, coming out of that Shels camp for the last couple of seasons now into a new environment? You've got to prove yourself a little bit, and obviously you've done that, making your way into the team. But what's been the biggest change for you, or the big differences between the 2 teams?
I think when you're with Shels, you're kind of more expected to win games. So it's kind of a different challenge. With Waves, some games we've been the underdogs. We haven't been expected to win. We've obviously when we beat Shels, it was classed as a shocked result, but I thought we played very well that day and deserved to win. Like we went close when the Peamount game the first time up there, like the 3-1, I think ended 3-1. I thought we played very well, especially in the second half, and we probably deserved even a point out of that game. So we have put in the performances. It's just the results going against us at the end of it.
2 things I want to pick up on the Peamount one in a second. But do you think some people thought that you moving to DLR was a bit of a risk? And how much has Peamount been an absolute pain in the backside this season? Because you can see it twice against them really late when you've been winning.
Them ones are the killer ones. You're getting into the last 5 minutes in the game, you're trying to hang on, but when you're playing Peamount, you can see it when you're watching them. They do dig deep and they will try no matter what to get the winner.
In terms of the standard across the league, obviously you've been around for a couple of seasons now, so you've watched the standards develop. But now we're seeing teams at the lower end of the table really competing. Athlone have been a revelation this season. Even Sligo have managed a couple of decent results. They've beat Wexford, they've beat Shels this season as the new girls in the league. That leveling out of the standard, is that something that you think is a good thing for the league? That now you go into any game not really knowing if you're going to win or lose compared to maybe 2 years ago?
Yeah, definitely. Like if you look at Athlone, 2 seasons ago they only started. They're up in the top 4 now in an FAI Cup final. It's a credit to them and their club. They've been unbelievable this season. I've said it before, they're probably the toughest team this season I've played against. They're just physically and mentally, they've been unbelievable. It's a credit to them and the club.
Since you mentioned Athlone, watching on as a neutral, if Athlone get a result this weekend, 3 games to go in the National League, 4 teams within 3 points, what would it be like to, considering DLR could be somebody who would have a massive say in who wins the Women's National League this season?
If you look at it last year as well, obviously I was with Shels, but DLR had a massive part to play in it as well. I think it was the second last game of the season. They had Peamount away and they got a draw, and that put it down to the last day then. So you can see the competition in the league is growing every year, and it's going to keep growing as the years go on.
What do you put that down to, though? Is it just the pool of players getting a bit bigger coming through the underage academies, or is it just players getting better?
I think all around, like, there's more effort going into it. Like, obviously the coaching side, you're getting better coaches in. People know more about it. Like, even the publicity, it's helping it a lot. Everything getting put into it is just pushing them more forward.
And how do you find being on TG Cahar when you're seeing the big cameras around? Does it give an extra buzz or does it give extra nerves?
It's known, it's more publicity. Like, there's more eyes on you. Like, it is more pressure, in fairness.
In terms of the success of the national team, of course, as well, that's bringing more eyeballs to the game, and hopefully that'll come back. We saw Katie McCabe at the weekend, 47,000 people at the Emirates watching her play for Arsenal. How long do you think it'll be before we're seeing regular crowds? I know we had 700 or 800 at the Shels Bowl semi-final at the weekend, but is that realistic that a club like DLR might have that in the bowl, maybe even outshining what the men's team are bringing in for home games?
I think more like it's more down to the results. Like, if we keep if we get more results and keep getting wins, it will draw people out to watch, and the games are getting more competitive. Why wouldn't you want to go out and watch the women's game?
I think the biggest thing you'll notice, especially from last weekend, Breifne, is that there was so many of players from other clubs who weren't involved were in Talca Park. It's the same week in, week out when players aren't playing. But in terms of just yourself, Mia, this season could have gone very differently for you. I remember watching you in the bowl against Cork. Did you fear your season was over when you went down injured?
When I went down, I was thinking, because I done my MCL in August last year when I was with Shels, and I was out for 2 months probably, and I was hoping, like, at that time it felt just as sore, so I was fearing that I could be out for much longer than I was, but thankfully I wasn't. So thank God for that.
In terms of, I suppose, the weekend, obviously Galway, the opposition this weekend, reasonably level between you over the last couple of games. There's not been much between you, really. What's the expectation going into that? Is this a chance maybe to kickstart a new last section of the league and kind of build a bit of momentum going into the end of the season?
Yeah, I feel like the momentum has been good. Like, we performed well in the Bows game. Obviously, we didn't get the results, but then again, Galway losing to Cork in their last game, they'd be looking to get a win on the sheet. So it will be a tough game, but we will give it our all and hopefully get the win at the end of it. Like,
you look at the difference. Even yourself and Bows are level on points, and Galway are just 3 points ahead. So it's a massive opportunity, even just with the weekend ahead, to potentially leapfrog them.
There's 4 games left. There are 4 massive games for everyone. Like, if we push on and win the next 4 games, it does push us up the table at the same time. So all we can do is put as much effort in as we can and hopefully get the results.
Can you give us any secrets ahead of the weekend? Any players in? Anything that you can tell us from training that you'd like Galway to know ahead of time?
No, I'll keep that quiet.
Eve Badana playing up front, maybe just confuse them completely.
Probably corner as well.
In terms of your own, I suppose, ambitions, obviously you've moved to DLR to get regular football. That's been, thankfully for yourself, it's been a thing for you this season. You've performed well. What's the plan medium to long term? Are you looking to maybe develop at DLR? Any international ambitions? Is that something that's realistic in the back of your mind?
Obviously, I want to keep pushing on and getting better as the years go on, and if Waves can help me do that, great. Like, I've enjoyed this season. The main thing, obviously, as well, was to get back enjoying my football, and Waves have helped me do that a lot. And the international side, when you do look at the midfielders in there, it'd be an unbelievable achievement to go in there. But obviously, it's a tough job to do. But I will keep trying as hard as I can anyway.
Do you take any inspiration from? I know you're very good friends with Jess Sue. Do you take much inspiration from the fact of what she's done in the last year to get her move abroad?
When I've seen the work she's put in, there's no one who deserves the more. To be honest, she's put so much work in to go over there, and she's doing well. And I'm honestly couldn't be happier for her.
Yeah, it's been a lightning journey from a lot of girls from the underage ranks right into the international scene and into the WSL as well. But for us at the moment, we're looking at the Irish thing. What's your predictions for the rest of the season? Obviously, currently sitting a couple of points behind Galway. You play them at the weekend, 4 games left. You do have the capacity maybe to get up to that, I think, 5th place position is probably as high realistically as you're going to close the gap. Is that kind of where you have to get to this year?
I think we can do it. There's no saying we can't. And the ambition would be to finish. Obviously, now it's probably too late to break into the top 4, top 3, but top 5 to finish that from the position we're in now, it'd be good enough at the moment.
Yeah, of course, Bohs and Galway will have plenty to say about that over the next 4 weeks.
Just don't forget though, Breifne, I think Bohs and Galway still have to play each other as well. So there's more. There's a mix in between them where they're all gonna drop points against each other. Bohs have Athlone as well left, and while DLR have the one massive one against Shelbourne, which would probably be the interesting one. I know that game potentially may be on TG Car, so that's another opportunity for them to get a nice scalp on television.
Absolutely, plenty of action to come. But Mia, listen, the best luck to you and your teammates at the weekend. Thanks very much for joining us. A little bit last minute, but you did admirably as well. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks very much.
Luck at the weekend.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate.
Mia Dodd there. You can't deny she's done really, really well this season. She made the move, as she said herself, to get first team football. She's managed to do that. Five strikes this season on target in the back of the net, and it's been a good signing, I think, for DLR in what hasn't been a fantastic year for them.
I think it was a brave move, realistically, because you look at what was going to depart Shelbourne and what has since departed Shelbourne. She could have potentially held on and tried to ride her luck out and see does she get that break into Shelbourne midfield, but she said no. She wasn't willing to sit around for another 6 months to a year to try and see what's going to be there for her. And I think she's right. When she got the injury last year, she was starting to get a bit of an opportunity for them, but making the move to DLR, I think it's been a good move for her. I think it's been a positive because she's got to play regular football. I think that was the most important thing for her. Like, no doubt it was a risk. It was risky because if it didn't go well at DLR, after being involved with the likes of Shelbourne, you're sort of in limbo. But thankfully for Mia's situation, it hasn't. She's played quite regularly, and you can see at times she's been a good linchpin in that midfield and played some absolutely superb passes and good link-up play with the forwards. She is right in what she says though about the end product. That's probably been DLR's biggest Achilles heel this year. They've had chances to just haven't put them away. They've either just taken shots from distance or had just swipes at stuff when they probably could have worked things a little bit better. I think from them they'll probably be disappointed with the way the season has gone. But if they can finish strong and get that 5th place, they'll have to settle for that and be happy enough that considering where the season has gone to where they finish.
Absolutely. Well, listen, we'll come back and talk about the DLR Galway game, as all the other the fixtures over the weekend as well in just a couple of moments. But first of all, maybe let's have a look at the results from last weekend. Just 2 games played, as we mentioned at the top of the show. Athlone, they've reached their first FAI Women's Cup final with a fantastic 3-0 win over Wexford Youths. A Madison Gibson hat-trick. And some fantastic efforts in those. We'll talk about that in a moment. But first, Shels and Bohs, the Dublin Derby, great crowd in Talca. It could have gone either way, but it was a Shels penalty from Pearl Slattery that
Noel Murray.
Noel Murray. Apologies. That sealed the deal in the end. First things first, your thoughts on the game, and then maybe the penalty. Was it as clear cut as it looked?
I was over that side, but I was behind that goal, but I was over the other side, and straight away I thought it was a penalty. I thought Michelle O'Neill and Neil Doyle took quite a while to actually give it, and for me I thought they weren't going to give it, and I started like, if you don't give this, there'll be absolute war. Like, no, I was talking to someone in the Bows back room after the team, and Neve said there was contact between them. It was a penalty for me. The only thing they'd have to, from my angle, I was sort of just wondering, was it inside or just outside? Was that what they were debating about? But there was no doubt it was the foul, and Noel calmly slotted it home. The only thing I will say on this game, while it was a quite emotionally charged game for both sides, they both wanted to make the cup final. Neither goalkeeper really had to do an awful lot, which was disappointing. They sort of cancelled each other out in the final third, and it was one of them that it was more of a cup semi-final that had to be won rather than somebody going and grabbing it by the scruff of the neck and putting in a dominant display. But it just shows this every time the sides have played this season, they've been close bar once in Dalymount when Shels ran out comfortable 3-0 winners. They've either been 1-0 or else a 1-1 draw. So they've always been close games, and it was to be expected. Another one, like, I know from speaking to people within Shels, the run of results obviously had them a bit concerned for the previous weeks, but it was one of them games that they just wanted to get back up, get over that hurdle. And I think the fact that they've managed to do it, I think may stem them in good stead for what's to come. And if they'd have lost that game, probably their season may have completely capitulated even further to what it has done. But from a Bows point of view, making the cup semi-final at the start of the year, you'd have to be really, really happy with that. But how they went out on Saturday, I think they'll be extremely disappointed. Like, there's two chances I think of straight away when I think of Bows. It's Aoife Robinson had a header, and she also had a strike that she blazed over from close range. If either of them hit the net, it could be a different game for the last 20 minutes. And it was a game of fine margins. The only thing I will say is neither side really has an out-and-out striker at the moment who's going to bang you in a lot of goals. So it was always going to be nip and tuck, and Shels probably just deserved to edge it. But Bows were good in the game.
Yeah, you caught up with the captain of Shels after the game, Pearl Slattery. It's a little bit hard to hear at this, folks, so apologies if you can't quite hear what she's saying. The music in Talca Park a bit too loud after the final whistle. But here's Aaron having a chat with Pearl Slattery after the game.
Slattery, they say cup semi-finals are just about winning. A 1-0 victory against Bows. Sum it up for us. Yeah, look, we're delighted. We knew it would be a tough game. Bows were coming in good form, and look, I think people wrote us off a little bit, having a look at a few things during the week. And look, we'll never write ourselves off. We really just wanted to focus. Look, could leave the league aside for a while and just focus on today. And look, I think the first half was really good performance out of us, and then in fairness to Bows, they came into it the second half, which, you know, we expect they're 1-0 down. But I think, as you said, it's cup final now. You just want to win it, clean sheet, win it whatever way you can. So we're delighted. Was it nice for the fact that you did have that bit of a break from the league after the last couple of weeks? Yeah, look, the league is the league, isn't it? There's going to be plenty of ups and downs, Aaron. You know, we had many highs at the start, and now we're in a bit of a dip, but other teams have faced those dips as well. But I still think, look, a lot of football to be played. But yeah, it was nice. It's always nice. The cup was brilliant. It's always a great day out for the club, for the girls, for their families. You want to get there, and we knew, look, at Dublin Derby, it wasn't going to be easy. But as I said, every game we come into, we trust ourselves, we trust their game, and I think the girls put on a great performance. It wasn't pretty at times, but we took a 1-0. A massive crowd as well. Yeah, it was brilliant. I heard the shout out, it was over 700. So look, fair play to everyone. I mean, you know, all the coverage it's getting on TG Card and League of Ireland TV is great, but we really want people down in the stadium at the seats. So fair play to both sets of fans today.
Yeah, sorry for the loudness of that as well. But in terms of, I don't know which is worse, the volume that the music was at or the song choice, both disastrous. They're trying to do it after match interview.
Yeah, they were. I wouldn't mind. Before the game, they were playing songs that you'd more be accustomed to in Dalymount as well, just to try and keep the fans. And it was actually a record crowd for a women's game in Talca Park, which, considering they offered free for season ticket holders and members, you know, they're glad to see they got a decent crowd. But it was. She's right in what she said. It was one of them that it's just about winning. But interesting enough, Pearl made her 150th appearance for Shelbourne at the weekend. Considering she had many seasons with Raheny United, a massive achievement to get 150 with Shels, considering the couple of years with Raheny. And I think it just shows testament that the league has a lot of great players who've come along and playing there consistently. You look even the likes of Kylie Murphy as well, over 200 now, I think, at this stage.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal achievement at this level, because don't forget, these girls don't play as many games in this league as the men's league do, so it takes you those extra seasons to get up to that level. The other semi-final, of course, Wexford went into it as favourites. But 2 minutes in, Madison Gibson scored the first of her hat-trick with a phenomenal effort from long range. And after that, it just seemed to be all Athlone. Definitely on the score sheet, Wexford had chances, didn't quite take them, couldn't quite find the back of the net, hit the post, did all sorts of things. But really, it was the Madison Gibson show on Saturday. She topped off a fine team performance from Athlone.
I've been doing a bit of digging into Madison Gibson the last couple of days, just to have a look I had a look through her social media just to see where she played before. Like, she played for Gentry Universities, who Wexford Youth would have played in the Champions League. So she's played at quite a high level before coming to Athlone, and she's just come in there, and it's nearly a case of, you look at the score she every week, it's nearly always Madison Gibson, Madison Gibson, Madison Gibson. And it's constant now, and that's the thing about it. It's not a case that she's just scoring once in a blue minute, but she's come in there and she's probably taking a bit of the pressure off the likes of Emily Corbett as well, to give that opportunity for the likes of them to just be able to play. But another superb performance, and you're right, some cracking goals as well. I did think that Athlone would get over the line against Wexford, but if you'd asked me, would Athlone win 3-0, I'd have laughed at you and said, no way. I said, they might win 1-0 or they might win 2-1. But to win 3-0 against Wexford Youths is a massive statement of intent. Like, you look at earlier in the season when they went on that great run and they had the great wins over the likes of Peamount, they'd never backed it up against another big side. The next time they played them, they'd always won. So they beat Peamount, then the next time they played a big side, they played Wexford, they lost. Where they played Shelbourne last week in the league, and then they played Wexford this week. And then they backed it up with two great performances in a row. Like, from a Tommy Hewitt's standpoint, what more can you ask for? To be in a cup final, an opportunity to play live on RTE games. The couple of games they're getting shown on TG Cahir as well, and I think their game this weekend as well is on TG Cahir against Wexford. And like, things are just rolling, and they're rolling in Athlone. And I think that it's the one word I've said all this show quite a lot. It's momentum, and that's all that they seem to get. And they're a hard team to stop when they get a momentum. And you even heard Don saying earlier they're a tough side to play.
Absolutely. And even I know we put out a tweet, we cover a lot of Leitrim GAA, obviously that's where Final Whistle is based, and Myrna Devaney played centre midfield for Athlone on Saturday in that performance. Sunday morning, 11 o'clock, she scored 3-3 to put her team into the championship final here in Leitrim as well. So they've just a really good collection of players, and they've gelled really well under Tommy. So interesting to see what they have ahead. But first of all, of course, they have a repeat. They host Wexford this weekend again. 3-0 last week. If they manage to repeat that victory at the weekend, they're going to blow this title race completely wide open. There's 6 points between the top four at the moment. This could potentially have a situation, as you mentioned earlier in the show, where only 3 points separates the top four with 3 games to play, and they all have to play each other as well. It really could be anybody's league title this year.
Like, you just look at that. It's madness. Like, Wexford will still have at Peamount and Shelbourne. Like Peamount, Athlone, I think will have the best of the run-ins from the sides, and they could really blow it apart. Even a point at the weekend will make a massive difference for the Peamount and Shelbournes. But if Athlone can get that result again, it'll be unbelievable. Like, the biggest thing we're talking about is Athlone have won 14 games this season. Last season they only won 3. The season before they'd won less, and you don't know where the ceiling is. And I think that's the biggest thing. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do get the 3 points again on Saturday to really blow the league apart. And I think they've learned an awful lot from that Shelbourne 1-1 draw in Talca Park where they gave the late penalty away. They've learned from that, and they're in a much stronger position now. And that'll be the one game that I think everybody be focused on to see what does happen. But like, so there is some other cracking toys. We talked to Don about the treaty game, but even looking at the Peamount Bows game, Peamount only taken a point off Bows in the 2 meetings so far this season. For them, it's really important to get the 3 points at home in Imperial Park. And like, it's a weekend where we could have a couple of surprises, but I would expect the likes of Shels to come out on top. But the Galway DLR game is the one where it's another pick'em, and it's the great thing about the weekend. We'll be sitting down to watch the results, not know the fixtures, and not know what's going to happen. Yeah,
I'm just having a quick look here at the fixtures to come in. Like, Athlone's run-in is Wexford. They also have to they're home to Galway, away to Bows, and away to Treaty. So you could genuinely see them being competitive in every single one of those games and potentially picking up 12 points. And that's going to put it up to everybody else because Peamount and Shels both have to play Wexford before the end of the season.
Back to back. So the second last day of the season, Peamount hosts Wexford. Then the last day of the season, Wexford hosts Shels. So it's just one of them that it's an absolute car crash in terms of an ending, but it's great. And the funny thing is, it's a repeat of last year, because you look at last year, we'd got Wexford with Shelbourne and Wexford in Talca Park the last day of the season, and this season it's again going to come. It could potentially come down to that game, but like the great thing is, we're not talking about a potential 2-horse race, or we're not talking about the league could be won with 3 games to go. Like you look at last year, it was sort of a case with Peamount is. When they beat Shelbourne 5-0, they went on and dropped a lot of points after that game, where Shels didn't. Where now we're talking about, if results go the way they potentially could go this weekend, we've 4 teams in a Women's National League title race. We've never had that.
Well, I think we already have 4 teams in the Women's League national race. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all pans out. Let's maybe look at some of the fixtures individually over the weekend. We'll start with the one we mentioned earlier with Mia, is Galway versus DLR. For me, it's probably, other than the Athlone Wexford game, it's probably the tightest game of the weekend. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. And especially when you look at both sides have really struggled to get wins in recent weeks. I think for Galway, after the news that come out and then the loss to Cork, that the confidence could be a little bit low. But DLR Waves still feel they left the result against Bows behind, and it's going to be a really, really tight game. And I think for that one, it could be a case of who scores first wins, and it could be a close 1-0 win either side.
Shels and Cork, hard to look past the home side here. It
is, but the problem is Cork have got that win. Danny Murphy size, they'll be raring to go, and Shels can't afford to not be firing on all full cylinders. I thought Leo Leary last week, making her first start for them, was superb on the left flank, and Abby Larkin on the right was very good. And I think Shels will need them to be really, really firing. I think if Shels can get an early goal or two, they could win it comfortably. But the problem is with Shels is, if Shels are still in the game at 0-0 at 60 minutes, that's when things potentially don't go their way.
Yeah, we've talked at length about Athlone and Wexford already this evening, but Peamount host Bows. It's second Dublin derby on the bounce for Bohemians. They've really been impressive in recent weeks, and even in recent months this season. They've really been competitive in these type of games. Could we see Bohemians take another scalp this weekend against Bows? Could we, or against Peamount? Could we see Peamount knocked out of that title race by Bohemians?
Nothing short of a win, and they're gone pretty much for them. And I think James O'Callaghan and Cole will know that. I think they'll be really up for this game, Peamount, considering they haven't taken the win against Bows this season. And you look at the first game, it was a late penalty in the second half that gave them the equaliser. They didn't look like scoring in Peamount, and then it was 2 late goals when they played in Dalymount. It was 2 goals in the second half when they played in Dalymount for Rebecca Cook after Peamount had led. So Peamount will sort of be disappointed with the performance. I think for Bows, it's a great opportunity to bounce back from the cup. And I think their mindset this season is completely different. If it was last year, you'd have probably said this is a foregone Peamount conclusion after a cup loss, but I don't think it is, and I think it could be tight. I think Peamount will have to be on full song, because if they're not, Bows could turn them over.
Yeah, I do think the experience Peamount have should be enough to get them the win on Saturday. But you never know. As I said, Bows have been very impressive this season, and it's maybe a change on the guard in Dublin if Bows go the whole season without losing to Peamount. That's a pretty big feather in their cap, to be fair, given where the clubs were 12 months ago.
Absolutely, and it's the same. It's the same thing we say with the changing of the guard with the likes of Athlone. They'd never beaten any of the top 4 sides. They never got a result against any of the top 3 sides before this season, and they're getting them. And I think that's the most important thing this year, that we're getting results against all these sides, and it bodes well for the league. But to be honest with you, I actually forgot that Treaty United and Sligo and Treaty was on Sunday, so that gives us an extra little bonus for Sunday afternoon football.
Yeah, no, of course, that game in the Showgrounds moved because Sligo play at home with their men's team on Saturday nights at 7:30. Personally, I would have liked to have seen them both happen on the same day. You could have comfortably played the game at 2:00, everyone out by 5, and then the men come in. I think it would have been nice, but I understand the politics as well in terms of not cutting up the pitch, or not risking the pitch cutting up if it's a bad day ahead of the senior men's game. But Saturday afternoon, they host Treaty. We talked to Don about it earlier in the show. I think these teams are very much, despite the gap between them on the league table, I think Sligo have been inconsistent. And what we've seen of them in recent weeks, they win as favourites, but only just. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, probably, and especially if you look back to the performance in particular, the Shelbourne performance from Treaty, I thought defensively they were superb. At times they had Shelbourne in a bit of a conundrum that Shelbourne didn't really know what to do at times, and got them extremely frustrated. And they looked to try and break an awful lot. Like from when I seen Treaty earlier in the season to when I seen them then, massive improvements, massive strides taken. And as Don said, the last month has been big for them. The result in Wexford, although it was a loss, would be massive confidence for them, because considering the amount of goals they would have shipped, and they'll go into that thinking that they've got a chance. But for Sligo Rovers, I think it's been a tough one, considering we were looking at them. Could they catch the likes of Bowes and DLR, and then they sort of just slipped back a little bit, and it's, as you say, it's petered out being inconsistent. I wouldn't be surprised if Treaty do get a point though.
Yeah, Sligo, of course, had 19 points on the league table. At the midway point of the table, they're still on 19 points. They'll be disappointed with the last maybe third of the season so far. And as we go into the run-in, they've got some big games left. So this could be the last opportunity for both sides to have a realistic chance of adding points to the table. But then, as we've seen before, facing Wexford or Shels doesn't seem to faze these Sligo girls. They're well capable of getting a result against those teams. They've done it in the past. Who's to say they won't do it away from home as well in a couple of weeks' time? Aaron, that's pretty much it for the week. If you had to put your neck on the line 4 weeks out from the end of the season, who's winning the league?
I wish I could. I actually genuinely wish I could tell you, but I'm gonna say this from the heart. I would love to see Athlone do it. From the heart, I'd love to. To see it.
I don't like the style of play Athlone play, but I like what they're doing, if that makes sense. And I don't mean that as to be a backhanded compliment to Athlone. I really am impressed with the performances they've put in. Style of football wouldn't be for me, but they're getting results, and at this level, that's all that matters. Yep. I think the run-in is going to be key. If they beat Wexford the weekend, they're my favourite.
If they beat Wexford the weekend, as you say, they've 3 games where you'd fancy them to get 9 points on. Yeah. And can you realistically say that Shels are going to pick up 9 points? No. Can you say that Wexford are going to pick up 9 points? No. Can you say that Peamount will pick up 9? No. So the one thing I will say is, right, don't rule out another playoff.
That's true. But I think the way I think it's either going to be Shels. If Wexford lose at the weekend, I think it's Shels or Athlone. Peamount would need even though they're there, they would need everything to go in their way. They need other teams to drop points. But I think Athlone would be my favourites if they beat. Amazingly, I can't believe I'm saying that, but Athlone, if they win at the weekend, they put themselves in prime position. I think Shels would technically be the favourite team at that point. They'd be the ones with it in their control because of who they play. But Athlone,
what if Shels have got what DLR and Wexford in 2 of their last 3 games? Like they're 2 of the games. The DLR game in particular, that's one game you wouldn't want. You'd be looking for an easier touch than a DLR.
Yeah, well, listen, as we said, it's so exciting to be a fan of the league, to be covering the league, and to be kind of looking forward to the next couple of weeks as these teams go into what's going to be a really exciting, I hope it's going to be a really exciting close. We say all this now, Wexford will beat Athlone at the weekend, everyone else drops points, and it gets Sligo over on Saturday evening. And we'll be getting texts from Wexford this week, not just from Galway.
I told you so.
But listen, it's exciting. We're neutrals coming into this for the most part. I know you have your own personal favourites, but I'm so excited about the next few weeks. It's going to be exciting to see what happens. Thanks to everyone for joining us. To Don O'Riordan, manager of Treaty, who joined us at the start of the show, and Mia Dodd, who was with us from DLR. That's it for another week. Aaron, don't miss me too much. We'll talk to you next week.